Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. It is December 24th, 2025. It is Joe from the Strange Voyage Files. And I'm going to do something that I don't really think anybody has ever done, so I may be the pioneer with this. We always talk about Ozzy's guitarists. We always, that's always Randy, Jake, Zach, whoever it may be. He's had a very impressive list of musicians overall. One gets overlooked quite often. And as you can see from my background picture, the one guy that you can see the most of is Don Airey. We're going to talk about keyboardists, and this is part of my All I Want for Christmas is Ozzy series. So, now, there's keyboardists. I'm going to kind of just go over, I guess the best way to say it is the more important ones. There are some keyboardists in Ozzy's lineup that really, it really didn't make an impression. And I had to do some digging on this. There's a guy named Michael Riallo who played on Down to Earth. Down to Earth wasn't really an album that it's okay. I don't think it sucks. I don't think it's great. And I definitely say that the keyboards on that album do not stick out to me. What's some other one? Oh, the other thing is I'm not even touching Ordinary Man and Patient Number 9. Everybody and their brother. It's like they went to 7-Eleven and gotten a Slurpee and turned to the guy working the cashier, working the cash register and said, "Hey, you want to play on the album?" "Sure." "Well, here, come on. You can play on the album too. We got 9,000 other people playing on these albums." So I'm not even touching those two albums. Osmosis is another one. I didn't really know this guy, and I think this album sucks anyway. Michael Beinhorn, I do know the name. Again, I'm looking off Wikipedia here. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Soundgarden, Hole, Korn, all bands that absolutely suck. Marilyn Manson sucks. I don't know who Kensington is, but probably sucks. Dutch Rock, yeah, no. So I could care less those people. Okay, now we got the ones that really made no impact, in my opinion, out of the way. Now we're going to start to talk about some people who did actually make an impact. And I'm going to start with a guy who was completely under the radar. And in fact, we're going to talk about Don Airey in great detail later on in this video. But much like with Diary of a Madman, a lot of people think Don Airey played on Ultimate Sin. He didn't. I don't exactly know why he's gone at this point. He leaves after the Bark of the Moon tour. I don't know if Sharon fires him or if he's got something else going on or what the deal is. But Don does split. He really has a very good relationship with Ozzy. So I don't think this is one of those things where it's, a problem. I think that maybe he did. Don was a very sought after keyboard player at the time. So I could definitely see if remember there's a 3-year gap between Bark at the Moon and Ultimate Sin. So, Don probably wanted to and had to keep working. So, he probably got caught up with something else. A guy named Mike Moran, who I know nothing about. I had to look the guy up. Was the guy who played on Ultimate Sin, and it looks like from what I'm seeing from Encyclopedia Metallum that he was also on the live Ultimate Live Ozzy that video. So it looks like he was on tour with Ozzy, I'm guessing. But he did a pretty good job on Ultimate Sin. It looks like he's more of a record producer, I think, but he also played keyboards. So he's got a few things going on, but he did a pretty good job overall. Ultimate Sin, was a bit more keyboard heavy than the other albums. And this guy stepped up to the plate. So I think Mike Moran definitely, in the grand scheme of things of Ozzy albums, absolutely made a positive impact on Ozzy's career. And again, I'm kind of going in order of who I think really made the biggest impacts. And my next one would be, well, first off, Rick Wakeman did play with Ozzy. So definitely on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, but I think Rick played on either on a tour with him or did guest on an album. So I mean, just to mention Rick Wakeman, who was a god on the keyboards. But I don't know exactly where he falls into Ozzy's solo career, but I do believe he does something with Ozzy. But his son, Adam Wakeman, has been with him since at least Scream. So, my God, at this point in time, you're saying, it was 15 years pretty much. And from Black Rain, it looked like Zach played the keyboard. So, but Adam Wakeman comes in next. Not only is he a great keyboard player, but he helps write a lot of these songs on Scream. And I think Scream, after No More Tears, is Ozzy's most solid album. And, the writing credits go to Ozzy, Kevin Churko, and then in some songs, Adam Wakeman. That's just Kevin Churko and Adam Wakeman. Ozzy does put melodies on songs, so we'll give him that. But Adam Wakeman does a great job. And again, he was with Ozzy for about 15 years, toured with him consistently, did a phenomenal job. Adam Wakeman, really, really, really important in the later years for Ozzy. The next one is the guy who played on No Rest for the Wicked and No More Tears, John Sinclair. Again, you're talking about somebody who was very important at the time, very important keyboard player, played on many different albums, many different bands. Did write a good number of songs on No Rest for the Wicked. No More Tears, I'm pulling it up right now. No, I don't see much on, or anything on No More Tears, but he definitely did on No Rest for the Wicked. So not only was he a great keyboard player, but he also contributed to the writing of No More Tears, a lot of things on No More Tears. Yeah. Or on No Rest for the Wicked. So incredibly important, because remember, a lot of people lose Ozzy after Ultimate Sin. They think he's kind of gone soft, and the comeback is with No Rest for the Wicked. And John Sinclair, when you songs like Fire in the Sky, just absolutely phenomenal. And then you go into No More Tears, and you have like Road to Nowhere and things. Just John Sinclair is an absolute powerhouse. Made a big difference in Ozzy's career, and again, this is one of the guys that kind of falls between the cracks. He's the keyboard player. He was part of the band. I mean, he was in promo shots and everything for the band, but sadly kind of falls through the cracks, and that is a big shame. Next guy. Excuse me. The next guy is, and again, back to Don Airey. A lot of people thinking, I think he was actually listed. Don was actually listed as playing on Diary of a Madman, but he didn't. And I believe that was because he had an obligation. I think he may have been. Put it in the comments. I could be wrong. Was he with Rainbow at the time? But it wasn't that there was any kind of falling out or anything. He just was doing something else. It's very possible he was with Rainbow at the time. But Diary of a Madman, Johnny Cook does a phenomenal job. Songs like Tonight, SATO, Diary of a Madman. Johnny Cook is, and I read an article right before I did this video, where he was in an interview, and he had worked with Bob Daisley before. And I think Bob, and as I'm reading this, it kind of triggers a memory. I think Bob, in the For Fact's Sake book, does say that he recommended Johnny Cook, but Max Norman had also worked with Johnny Cook. So those two guys who were instrumental in Blizzard and Diary know Johnny Cook very well. Johnny Cook just did an unbelievable job on that album. He said he didn't really interact with the band much. I don't know if he was in the studio at the same time or how that worked out. And he said a lot of his parts were overdubbed. So, but the songs that have keyboards on that album Keyboards really make an impact. Johnny Cook did a great job. Um, Also want to bring up Lindsey Bridgewater, who played on the Blizzard of Oz, the tour, because again Don Airy had other commitments, so Lindsey Bridgewater, got to give a shout out to him, and supposedly, by all accounts, did a great job on tour. Now this leads us to the most important one of all, and that is Don Airy. Don Airy plays on Blizzard, which again is my favorite album from the Blizzard of Oz band. And yes, it was a band with those first two albums. Argue with me all you will. I don't care. I'm right, you're wrong when it comes to that one. And then, he comes back for Bark at the Moon. I mean, my God. Revelation, Mother Earth. Mr. Crowley. Waiting for Darkness. Just... Come on, Center of Eternity. Don Airy is a god. He is by far the best. And I love people like Wakeman and Lord. But Don Airy, in my opinion, beats them all. He is the absolute best keyboard player of all time. He is the name. If you do think keyboards when it comes to Ozzy Osbourne, that's the name that you think of. That is the person that pops into your head. That is the guy that, is synonymous with the greatness of Ozzy Osbourne. Don Airy, absolutely, positively, and he has said many times, he wrote the intro to Mr. Crowley. And once again, I think, in fact's sake, Bob does back this up. And of course, Don never got any credit for it. But Don was so important that when we get to the Diary of a Madman tour and Bark at the Moon tour, he's on stage. Now, you got to remember, there's a time where in the 80s, keyboard players are behind curtains. I mean, can't think of the guy's name. Mike something or other, I believe, for Iron Maiden, has been with Iron Maiden since Seventh Son. I don't think he played, I think it was Steve Harris that did Somewhere in Time, played the keyboards on Somewhere in Time, but from Seventh Son on, they've had a stable keyboard player that has never been on stage. I mean, you don't have to make him a band member, but man, you could put the guy on stage if he's done that much work, but whatever. But Don was on stage, and that was kind of unprecedented for that day. I mean, heavy metal, you didn't want to associate yourself with keyboards, and if you did, you didn't want to have the keyboard player on stage, and Don was so well respected and so good that they did put him on stage. So I wanted to show some love to the keyboard players for Ozzy. Again, Don Airy is my favorite. Johnny Cook did a great job on Diary of a Madman. I put John Sinclair, even though I talked about Johnny Cook over him, I'd put John Sinclair as my second favorite, and then Johnny Cook, then probably Mike Moran, and then I don't think it really, whatever, I don't care. I know it sounds terrible. The rest of them, it doesn't really matter. But Don Airy and John Sinclair, man, they really raised the bar when it came to Ozzy's music, especially Don Airy. I mean, the man is an absolute legend. With Deep Purple now, he's been Deep Purple for years. I mean, that's to walk into John Lord's footsteps, that says a lot. So, all right, well, that's my, I was like, what am I going to do for this video? I still got to figure out what I'm going to do for Christmas. I'll figure something out. But nobody really talked about these keyboard players and whatnot, and how a couple of them, a few of them were hired guns. Osmosis, the guy, I'm sure, was a hired gun. Down to Earth, I don't know who the guy was, hired gun. The 255 people who played on An Ordinary Man and Patient Number 9, hired guns. And yes, Johnny Cook was a hired gun too, absolutely. Kind of so was Lindsey Bridgewater. And Mike Moran was. Don Airy and John Sinclair, they were band members. And they, well, as much as you could be with an Ozzy Osbourne solo band, but they made a difference. And they absolutely deserve to have the recognition, especially Don Airy. Don, if you ever watch this, You're the best. Always have been, always will be. All right, guys. Well, here this is my Christmas Eve video. It is 12. Like it's 12:25 a.m. Here in good old Chicago. So I want to get this in. My family was up. My wife and daughters were making Christmas cookies all day, and we were building shelves and whatnot. And tomorrow I just want to relax. So figured I'd do this now because I'm still wide awake. All right, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see ya. And Merry Christmas Eve.